If you've ever heard the first chapter of the book of Genesis, you're probably familiar with the way that it starts.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters.
It seems like every time Genesis 1 is read in churches, people kind of tense up and start to get ready for a fight. Actually, there have been a lot of debates about this idea of, science versus the Bible, God versus evolution. And actually, when I looked up the Bible and science on YouTube, most of the videos that I saw were over an hour long. And in most of these videos and debates, the focus was on where people disagreed. Not that long ago, I remember hearing that Bill Nye the Science Guy was going to be having a debate with this guy named Ken Ham, and they were going to be talking about Christianity and the Bible and science and kind of how those things interact with one another. And I remember thinking, man, this is going to be so cool. We're going to get to hear a little bit about how God interacts with the world and that we can understand that through science. And I remember sitting down to watch this debate, and it was over 2 hours long. And when they got to the end of it, I remember being really frustrated because it just seemed like these two guys were just yelling past each other. I read a quote the other day that I think is so true, and it says that a Christian's primary response to God's world should not be debate, but an overflowing of praise and worship of the Creator. When we see Genesis 1 as nothing more than an account of how God created, we miss so much of its meaning. There's something so much bigger going on there. The problem isn't the fact that we ask the question of how God created. I think that's a really good question. But I think the problem comes when we make that the ultimate question and when we try and have Genesis 1 ultimately be answering the question of how God created everything. I think when we look past that and when we dig deeper into Genesis, it's actually saying something a whole lot bigger than that. And it comes right in that first verse when it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." That's a huge statement. That statement lets us know that everything that's around us, God created it. And not only did He create all of it, but He created it for us. And He created us as special beings that are in His image to enjoy this creation.
As we read through the beginning of Genesis, what we really see here is that God is present and involved in creation, and all He creates is good. But the humans that He creates, all of us, we are very good, God says. And like we talked about last week, we are made in the image of God.
For any of you that come to CPC on Sunday mornings, you might hear Pastor Crosby use this phrase, like, let's keep the main thing the main thing. Don't get distracted by the smaller things, especially if that's going to make you miss the big picture and the main point of what's happening. And I think the main thing is that God created everything and God created us and that He loves us and that we are special in all of creation.